What's going on, everyone? Sid Gordon here with Core Medical Group, and today I have one of the most amazing contributions to Core Medical since the beginning of time, Charles Blaisdell. But before I get to him, guys, I wanted to point out my t-shirt, Cody Alfred's t-shirt here. I use the F word, but it really stands for freedom. I do use the F word, though. So, guys, check those out if you can. Cody Alfred's got the shit as far as when it comes to gear. But anyways, back to Charlie. The important thing today is him. Charlie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and coming aboard here for this podcast.
You're welcome, Sid. I appreciate it. And I just want to say on the outset, I'm very upset that I wasn't the first guest asked to be on your podcast, but hopefully I'm not the last guest.
No. Well, the reason why you weren't the first guest, Charlie, is because you're so full of all this amazing wisdom, and I didn't want to just astonish people with how smart you are right off the bat. But so I'm going to give you guys a quick backstory. I'm going to leave out a little bit, but so Charlie and I met almost 11 years ago. He was on the West Coast. He moves around like a gypsy, but I love him for that. He's experienced a lot of life. He's an amazing father. And we met through a text blast that I sent out, and Charlie was working for another company at the time and called me and said that, you know, he's been in the industry. He was a very successful attorney in Massachusetts, and just fell in love with hormones. And his wife, Devin, they're like the dream team. They've been great to me through the years, and they basically work together on a daily basis and bring a lot to the table. But I'm going to let Charlie tell you the story about having him come over here and where we've kind of what the first 5 years of our relationship looked like, what the industry looked like then, because I know you guys would rather hear him speak than me.
Yeah. The industry has changed quite a bit. I got my start, like Sid said, I've been a trial attorney for 27 years. Fortunately, I don't have to go to court anymore. But I was working with a doctor out in Santa Monica. His name is Dr. Rand McLean. He's an excellent practitioner, and I learned a lot from him. But I didn't want to move to California for some of the reasons that people like to talk about politically. I didn't want to move out there. So the easiest way to say it is serendipity brought us together. The Lord brought us together, Sid. And I saw a text message from Core Medical, and I had heard of Core Medical, and I have heard of Sidney Gordon. And I reached out to Sid, and Sid said, yeah, I think I know who you are. You better get on your first plane out here to Delray Beach. And I talked to Devin, and we jumped on the first plane out. And I think it was the first and last time that I ever was able to spend a full day with Sidney Gordon. A lot of people don't get that privilege. I got that privilege once in my life. But we hit it off. We're both from Massachusetts. We're both Boston guys. And Sid and I said to each other, hey, we're the type of people that will butt heads from time to time about things because we're both so headstrong. But the bottom line was the next day we're going to wake up and we're going to hug and kiss each other and tell each other that we love each other because we have that much respect for each other, for each other's families, for the business of Core Medical. And it's been the greatest pleasure of my life, other than getting to know God a little bit more in the last few years, and my wife Devin. Being with Core Medical has been one of the greatest pleasures in my life, and I'm very fortunate for everything Core brought and for everything that you do, Sydney, for the business and for all of our thousands of patients.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride, Charlie. Like I never thought we'd be where we are today. I mean, we've always done a real good job of staying ahead of the curve. I want to go back. as a business owner, and Charlie's one of our very strategic partners. I hold him in high regard. I really don't make any major decisions without him. Internally, it's been like that for almost over a decade. But as far as being the owner of the company, the hardest thing is you get these phone calls like the one I got from Charlie all the time, because I had some background on Charlie prior. How many people call you, Charlie, and say, "I'm going to send you 900 people next week. Can can I work for you? Can I do this?" And listen, we have 5 brand ambassadors that work at Core, and we've legitimately been approached by probably 80. It's not an easy task. And people think that, it might be easy in the beginning, but guess what? Then your audience kind of disappears slowly over time, and you go from onboarding 20 or 30 people per month, and then you're onboarding 2 or 3, and to stay consistent in growth in this business is a fucking challenge. And I see it all the time. I've gotten very good with driving traffic. Charlie's done very well driving traffic. Our ambassadors have been amazing. But, Charlie did something in the beginning that is next to impossible from what I've seen. He came aboard and grew. I think he's on his 3rd book at Core Medical, and basically he's grown his book. He's passed the patients off to other coordinators and then grown another book because he just has a niche, and he has such such a quality audience. For if you think of hormone replacement therapy in New England, you're buying it from you're getting it from the resources that Charles Blaisdell has. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I first came on, we were Core Medical was located in Delray Beach, and I had told Sid, I got this plan. I got a business plan to get us into Massachusetts, and there were only maybe 2 doctors in Massachusetts doing testosterone therapy, and they weren't really good. They weren't really popular. They weren't marketing. And I saw an opening because I do have a business school degree. That's my undergraduate, and then I went to law school. So I've got that business sense. So anyway, so I saw an opening, and I told Sid, I said, I think we can do this. I think we can open up something in Massachusetts. And I think the number was, I think Sid had said to me, yeah, sure, okay. Why don't you bring me like 400 people
It was 200.
down here to Delray
It was
Beach? Bring
200.
about 400 New England people in, and then we'll talk about opening up an office. And I took that as one of the biggest challenges I've ever had. It was a bigger challenge than passing the bar exam. And so I
Well, I could bring in
up.
the 400 patients, Charlie. I couldn't pass the bar, so
Yeah,
it says a lot.
I,
A lot less about
I,
me.
I literally would stay up, and my wife would attest to this. I would stay up till 2, 3 in the morning working on cultivating leads and referrals and leads and referrals. And I think it took, I don't know, it might have taken legitimately about 2 years. I forget now. It's been
It
over
was
10.
it was less than that because I'll tell you, within 2 years we had the first office open up there of you working there, I believe, right? Because
Yeah. And
we had it 9.5 years ago. Yeah, so that's about right. Yeah, about 2.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Sid. No, so I wasn't Sydney's golden boy at the time. Sid had a golden boy at the time.
there's no such thing.
He will remain nameless. And I told Sid, I'm going to take his belt away from him. And Sid again laughed at me and said, "Yeah, okay, all right, sure, you're gonna, sure." And I'm telling you, within a year, not only had I taken his belt, but he was either ejected from Core Medical or there was a friendly parting of the ways. I'm not privy to that. But I think Sid saw a little something in me, and he knew that I had a little veracity, and he knew that I had a great work ethic. And I think you knew that I was a faithful guy too, as you are. And and you opened up the office in Massachusetts, and gosh, I lost count of how many New England patients we have now. But like you said before, when people think of testosterone in New England, they think of Core Medical now.
Yeah, it's been so. I'm going to go back. So a little banter here. While Charlie was passing his bars and being in business school, I was actually, he's a little bit older than me, but I really learned what it takes to really say things in certain demeanors and direction to really light some internal fire and flame. And Charlie already had that, but he's competitive, and it was, I've never looked at a relationship with you as me being in charge of any major decision, or like, it's just been a great marriage. And, opening up that office, I was scared, I talk about this all the time on here. There's 3 stages of business. You guys are probably sick of hearing it, but oh shit, is this going to fucking work? I have all my life into this, and I have these kids at home that I need to feed, and I can barely feed them. And then what happens, the community of core that we've built, Charlie, is you have the Charles Blaisdells, the Matt Stevens, the Mike Arrows, the Kaylin O'Shea's, the Allisons, that were really our core group of guys and girls. And then you're focused on making sure that they can feed their family and that they're not going to leave you. That's another phase of it. And then once you get that comfort stage of where everyone's happy, they're making money, they're in a good environment, then it goes to the stage we're in now, which is the fact that we don't really care if you sign up with us or not. We want to educate you, and we're going to do a really good job educating you. And the beauty of core now is we've turned into a group 11 years ago where we're shitting our pants and trying to make every penny we can, to now sitting back and just watching the beauty happen and being real as fuck. And people really can feel a difference there. And I know Charlie doesn't have to worry about where his next dollar comes from. And it's a good feeling to just be able to have a conversation with someone and not be worried about the financial outcome. Do you feel that same, like that same change in the dynamic of core, Charlie?
For sure. I mean, I have through the years made friends with more people that have never become patients that will call me to ask me about their doctor who might be treating them this way, and a lot of people, and they're friends, they're not our patients, and they know I'm not a physician, but they always want my opinion on things. So and I'm happy to do that. It's just time out of the day. I think the last statistic I read is the testosterone replacement business has grown. I think from the year 2000, it was a $100 million business, to I think year 2022, so 22 years, it's grown to, I forget if it was 3 or 4 billion.
Yeah, it's about 3 billion right now.
So the industry has grown. The patients have gotten exponentially smarter. Dr. Google has been wonderful for people. I also see, unfortunately, the primary care doctors have not gotten lot smarter.
Yeah.
They're still far underdosing people. They're not giving them their supporting ancillary meds. They're not testing for estradiol. We have all these fantastic new medicines, the new peptides. They know nothing about them. I tell people all the time, glutathione, a simple amino acid, the building block of life, is the best kept secret in all of medicine. And primary care doctors don't even know how to pronounce glutathione.
Nope.
So the industry has changed. The patient database has gotten much, much smarter. But unfortunately, I don't want to knock all the primary cares, because there's some very good ones out there. You know that, Sid.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't kept up. So I see that as a lot. That's like a summation of what I've seen for the last 10 years. And it's good that the patients have gotten smarter.
So it's funny that you said this. I was with Jimmy on the podcast about 3 weeks ago, and he asked me what he thought the biggest change that I've seen in the industry was. And I said, well, when I started about 13 years ago now almost, it's just insane, Charlie. It would take me like 1, 2, 3 phone calls, 2 hours to educate and onboard one person to make them feel like they were not taking a freaking steroid. They were not taking a designer drug. Now it's like the phone rings. I want it. I don't need to know anything else. My friend's on it. His life's completely changed. And then obviously with all the military, the ripple effect we've had inside the U.S. military, it's just been another level of insanity. We have 2,500 active duty veteran patients that are in the U.S. military, probably more that we don't know about. That's just my count as of the beginning of this year. Obviously, we've onboarded a few thousand people since then, but that community's been amazing. The first responder community, which you own in Massachusetts, amazing. And before, when you'd speak to one person there, it was a different feel. They were actually scared to talk to their departments about it.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the law enforcement and fire felt a lot of comfort and still do feel a lot of comfort with me because I cut my teeth at the Essex County District Attorney's Office. So I was on the prosecution side of the fence early on in my career, and then I jumped over to the evil side. But a lot of the guys knew me from being in the courts with the DA's office, and a lot of the guys knew me from as being an attorney, practicing attorney in Salem, Mass. So a lot of the law enforcement guys felt very, very comfortable with me. Felt very, very comfortable going to us and coming to our clinic because they knew, I'm as an attorney, I have an obligation, to do things the right way and to not tell lies, frankly. And I got a lot of law enforcement referrals. I got a lot of lawyers on board. I got some state judges. I got one federal judge, and I think that's probably the thing I've been the most proud of is the first responders and law enforcement, bringing them into core medical. Now it's to the point where I think pretty much every first responder in Massachusetts, if they're going to do any type of therapy, they're coming to core medical.
Yeah,
And
no,
I'm very, very proud of that.
yeah, it's funny. We had was it's I'm not going to use names, but my brother-in-law is in Europe right now, and he's doing a movie, and the movie is this. It's essentially like a Jason Bourne, but like it's based on a real life Jason Bourne. And John calls me last weekend and goes, "You're not going to freaking believe this one, Sid." I said, "What's up?" He's like, I'm playing this person. I had to spend some time on the phone with him prior to a lot of Zoom calls, the whole 9 yards. And the last phone call, he said he didn't want to say anything until it was all over. But he said, I know your brother-in-law Sid like real good. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he told me who it was. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So John's in Europe filming for a agency guy about an agency guy here in the United States. He's one of the top agency guys ever to walk the face of the earth and knows me intimately. And I didn't even know who he was. So it's like, it was pretty crazy. And, that stuff happens a lot, dude. Like I got on a plane not too long ago. I sit down next to this guy and he's got a Core Medical t-shirt on. And on the flip side of that, we did a t-shirt giveaway at a festival not too long ago. And I was walking down the street. I was driving down the street on my golf cart with Juliet 2 weeks ago. And there was a homeless woman with a Core Medical t-shirt on. So I guess I can go both ways.
Oh wow, yeah, I've seen people with core medical shirts just driving around in my neighborhood, and I say I don't even know who these people are.
Exactly, I know.
Core medical shirts.
I think we give out legitimately about 3,000 a year. It's crazy, but so Charlie, let me back up a little bit here. So when a patient gets to you at Core Medical, right? Because you really set the tone across the board. And I've explained this before, but hearing it from you, the person that kind of designed the onboarding process at Core that I've really followed after and implemented across the board. Can you talk about whether they come in through Instagram or Facebook or referral? What's your process with them? What do they expect when they meet with you?
Yeah, well, the very first thing we'll talk about is what brought them here. Whether it's I'm taking naps in the afternoon. I have no energy. My muscle tone is horrible. I have unexplained weight gain. I don't even have the energy to play with my kids anymore. We'll talk about that. And then I'll ask them, if they've ever had their testosterone tested. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it's no, my doctor won't test my testosterone level. Um, and then we'll talk about what numbers are, but then we'll kind of phase into the fact that we don't really treat numbers. a testosterone number, I'll tell somebody, a testosterone number, there's a reference range. The word reference is the key word in that. It's just for reference by physicians. Unfortunately, too many doctors will look at that number and they don't use it for reference. They use it as gold. They use it as, okay, you're not below this number, I won't treat you.
You're in range, right, Charlie? You're in range.
They're in range.
Yeah, but
right.
there's a difference between in range and being in reference range. And the way you just explain that is worth its weight in gold, actually, because that is so important to the listeners out there to understand that, which I'm sure Charlie's going to get into, even though your total testosterone might be in reference range, there's a lot more to the picture than your fucking total testosterone. So go on, Charlie.
And the reference range, I think when I got started with you, I believe it was maybe 400 to 1400, and now that reference range has been downshifted down to 250 to 900.
Yep. Yeah, it was 350 to 1100 when we started, Charlie.
Yeah.
I still have my first blood work.
Yeah. So it's,
and the crazy part is too, is that different labs will use different reference ranges. There's not even, so it can't be a medical range if everyone's not using the same medical range. Right. If it's a reference range, everyone can use it.
So somebody might be at 400. Let's just use this example. You're at 400. You get up, you got energy all day, you play with your kids, you build muscle. I'm at 400. I can't get out of bed in the morning. I can't put on muscle. I'm putting on fat, ED. I forgot to mention that one. That's a big one. So you could be at 400 and be fine, Sid. I can be at 400 and can be 1 foot into the grave. And for primary care doctors to just say, hey, I don't treat people unless they're below 200. It's wrong. So maybe the 400 Sidney Gordon is fine. He doesn't need therapy. He hasn't even looked for it. But the 400 Charlie Blaisdell needs the therapy. So that's what we do here at CORE very well. We don't treat the number. We treat the patient. We treat the symptoms. And that's a big fault with the industry. So, I'll build the rapport with the patient. Obviously, every patient gets my cell phone number. I encourage them to text me. I'm a 7-day-a-week worker. I always have been, even when I was practicing law. So everybody knows, if the Patriots are playing, they're not to text me. If the Patriots are on, they're not to text me. I tell everybody. After the game, they can text me. But we get them signed up. We get them into the office. We have a new office in Lexington on Militia Drive. So Brianna, our physician's assistant, is there. And so we get them into Lexington. We do a very good panel of bloods, as you know. I'm sure you've talked about already. We do a physical. And then the medical staff will reach back to them and give them some recommendations. And that's when I step back in after the medical staff has made their recommendations. And I kind of fine tune exactly what they think they need to do. For instance, if somebody's vitamin B is high and they're looking to do vitamin B, I might talk them out of spending the money on vitamin B and point them into another direction, which their bloods justify. So, it's very important. My job is a patient care coordinator. And in that line, the word care is the most important word to me.
Something that comes to mind there, like when you just explained that. So just for the guys, the Charles not changing protocols, but there are people that come aboard and they start self-diagnosing. I think I need this. I think I need that. And, that's why I say it all the time. That's why GNC is a $1 billion organization, because people go in there and start self-diagnosing. So the beauty of it is that, it started with, myself and Charlie when we were grinding away, is that if someone doesn't need something, right, it's like in anything in the world, it's like, we just don't provide it. It's just a waste. And the last thing we want to find out is that, we took money from somebody and it didn't do them any justice. So, sure. I mean, talk about the ethical side of that, Charlie, like the people that come through the door. There's two sides of it. Some people that want everything under the sun and we have to tell them, the bad news,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't think it's good that they come in and they want to buy everything because then they don't really know what's helping them.
Exactly.
You know, so like the vitamin B example is the most it's the most popular example I can give you because everybody hears, oh, vitamin B causes fat loss, vitamin B, and my friend and this friend, but their levels are fine. They come in with like 600, 700 levels of vitamin B and they want to do it, and I say no, don't. You know, well, my other friend's clinic is giving it to him. I said, well, you don't need it. And that's the other thing too. Some of the other clinics I heard, I just got off the phone yesterday with a guy who one of the other clinics in New England that opened up after well after us wants people to buy, I think, a year's worth of medicines out of the gates, and that's really gimmicky. You know,
It's bad
we
medicine.
it's yeah, I mean it's gimmicky is what it is. You shouldn't be taking a new patient and selling them, forcing them to buy a year's worth of medicine. So our protocol is a 10-week testosterone protocol, but a lot of guys don't need the full dose, so they might have a 12-week or a 14-week protocol out of it
Mhm.
if the medical staff doesn't want them on the full dose. So
That's why
uh,
when we do our annual special each year, that we only do it on existing patients that have had a consistent protocol. They
right.
know what they are approved for and they know what they're going to get. For someone to come through the door and on their first order be forced to get 12 weeks of medication is just ridiculous.
I see that, and I also see a lot of clinics, not a lot of clinics, but there's a few clinics out there giving people as many bottles of testosterone as they would like to purchase. And I thought the days of the cowboy clinics were long gone, but I don't think they're gone, buddy.
No, I
They're
just had
still,
a guy come in the office last week, Charlie, with two. He's kept telling me about the medication he got, and I'm like, hey man, I've known you for a while. Just can you bring in the office? He's from the other coast. He was coming this way. He comes in, and now I understand what he was saying. He had two orders from two separate pharmacies that he got at the same time. 3 bottles of Test, a bottle of Deca, Winstrol, and a bunch of peptides. I'm like, what'd you spend on this? He's like $3,700. And I'm like, dude, like, it's scary to me, Charlie, because I mean, I like to think we vet our pharmacies real well, but like if we get caught up at the same place, I mean, you can talk on that. You're the ripple effect of a lot of people getting in trouble for something like that could be tremendous, or an interruption in business that a pharmacy gets shut down. Like it's crazy, and it's if the HRT clinic is facilitating a patient in doctor shopping, right? Even though the one pharmacy and the other one didn't do the right thing, if they placed it at the same time, it didn't make it into central fill. I've seen that happen before. Same day processing doesn't make central fill till the end of the day when it gets reported. They beat it every time that way. And then we have XYZ pharmacy that we've been doing business with for a decade that's been above board, and then all of a sudden they get an audit because of it, and they have a freeze in business, and now we're struggling. So for the consumers out there are the correct ways to go about doing this. Charlie's a great resource to understand what is right and what is wrong in this industry. He's helped me with it tremendously. You want to talk
yeah, I
about
think
talk about that, Charlie?
yeah. Well, let me just touch just for one second. I think what we at Core bring to the patients is we are vastly far ahead of all the other clinics in our compliance, vastly far ahead. And that's something that, I demanded out of the clinic right from the early days. That we do everything by the books. We're bringing the patients into the office. They're doing their bloods on time. We're not prescribing testosterone to somebody who does not need it. I mean, that's a lot of clinics, they will do the bloods. They might not even do a physical. And I swear they're just prescribing testosterone regardless of what their bloods say.
Yeah, it just
They're
says it's just a CBC
just
panel. I've seen people come in and say, "Oh, I just got my testosterone with a CBC panel." I'm like, "What the hell?"
yeah, and that's something that I know the names of the places. Of course, I'm not going to mention them, but I'm very proud that we've never done anything like that. Our medical staff is by the book when
Yeah.
it comes to everything. So
And grown quite a bit.
and grown tremendously. Yeah,
Yeah, we're up to
tremendous.
we have 13 PAs and MPs right now, and three doctors.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have sponged up a lot of my knowledge from our medical staff over the years. I just would sit and listen and listen and listen and watch and take notes. And so everything that I'm talking about, it's not coming from me going to medical school. It's coming from our medical staff teaching me. You know, I've been on testosterone for 14 years now. I started when I was 38, and I'm 52 now. Started when I was 38, and I'm 52 now. And which brings me to another idea, fertility. A lot of discussion that goes on with patients. If I start testosterone, will I be able to have children? And
Mhm.
I will tell you, I have 5 children. So I'm doing my job to populate the earth. I had 3 of those children before I started testosterone, and I've had 2 since I started testosterone. My son is 4. My daughter is going to be 1 this week. And I've been on testosterone for 14 years, and I don't have any issues with fertility. So now I'm not saying this isn't a double-blind placebo test that Charlie's saying just because it happened to him, but I'm saying in my experience, I have no issue with fertility.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I share the same accomplishments while being on TRT as you. Both my daughters conceived while being on testosterone. And there's hundreds of patients. Nick K's biggest thing is, his doctor pulled him off testosterone for like 9 months, trying to have them conceive, and it was useless. His biggest thing is, oh man, I wish I met you before I did that, because he was like suicidal. His testosterone was like 103 when we pulled it. He was having horrible thoughts. He was very active in the military. And, one thing I can tell you guys out there, whether you're in the military or not, a low testosterone level does not help in any avenue of your life. The biggest thing that I've noticed and heard too, Charlie, this is a big stigma. Oh, is it going to make me angry? Okay. So I had this conversation the other day. I wanted to talk with you about it today. I had a patient that tells me, I'm afraid I have anger issues. Okay, buddy, whatever. Well, your anger issues will come way faster and way more aggressively. Uh, uh, Taking black market, obviously, yes. The designer drugs, yes. But on basic TRT, from my experience, and Charlie, you can chime in, it's been the opposite, because when I had a 250 test level and had no sex drive and was out of shape and couldn't be a productive person during the day, it caused me to have depression. That depression turned into anger. Once my testosterone increased and I started to live life better, I had more gratitude and the anger went away. And that's the way that I explained it. And, we're very careful on dosing. No one in core medical is ever getting over 200 milligrams a test. It's not happening. Don't call us if you want more. But what I can tell you is the black market you're taking, because typically that's the person that calls, the 100 and the 200, the 300 bottle of Sustanon that you get, buddy, does not have 300 milligrams of Sustanon in it, right? And a lot of patients, believe us, and they give us the opportunity to get them on the right path. And after 10 weeks, they're like, wow, I feel better than I did on my 900 milligrams of testosterone. And I'm not as angry because it's in the bottle. Everything's batch tested. It's sterility tested. We know that you're getting a 200 milligram injection every time you take it. There's no peaks and valleys. There's supporting meds. So the anger side of things really made me think a lot the other day. And I'd say right now, if you're alone by yourself like I was, and you're experiencing that type of stuff, you should get your test checked out. But that anger is even tenfold more when you have kids and you have a wife and you're trying to be a good dad and you're trying to be financially supportive and also a good husband in multiple different ways, and you can't be. That additional pressure and anxiety causes a lot more anger than anything else I've ever seen. So, Charlie, you got anything to stream on that?
Yeah, I won't say that I've never heard of a patient tell me he's getting angry off test. I would
Anxious,
say to
yeah.
you, yeah, yeah, no, angry.
Oh,
I've had in let's say the last 10 years, I think I have thousands of guys that have come through New England, maybe 2 that said I'm getting too angry off of this. Um, I think I, I read a study a while back. I think the roid rage, we're talking about roid rage is what we're talking about.
Short
I think,
switch.
yeah, I think what the study had said was it's not people that have been using testosterone, it's people that have been abusing anabolic steroids, which are derivatives of testosterone.
Hmm.
And it's because their testosterone was high and their estrogen was also high. It was a combination of the two things that would cause the raging, or, when you bump into somebody at the gym at the water cooler, they growl at you and act like assholes. Um, I don't think it happens on testosterone at all, really, other than a rare handful of people. Um, I've noticed that I tell guys, like, things start to roll off your shoulders a lot better.
Hmm.
Your mood gets better. You feel more of, like, testosterone is what makes a man a man. You feel more of a man. You feel more of a sense of purpose. Um, but yeah, the roid rage thing, it's just not part of the game. I mean, we're not letting the estrogen get up really high with the testosterone. We're keeping the estrogen at a good, normal, safe level. Um,
So for like the viewers out there, I'll get a little bit detailed here. So there's what we really look at are there's three major components that we look at that involve your testosterone immediately, and then also contributing things that we make sure you're in good standing with prior to putting you on testosterone. There's a multitude of those. Okay, as far as cholesterol, PSA levels, liver enzymes, it goes on and on. So in order to get approved for testosterone, those things to be in range. But when we look at testosterone, we're looking at your free, we're looking at your total, and we're looking at your sex hormone binding globulins. In conjunction to that, we want to make sure that your estradiol is not too low and not too high, because being estrogen dominant is really bad. It's a very bad place to be. I've been there before. There's physical issues that can happen. There's a lot of mental issues that can happen. I cry in commercials. I get that from patients all the time. You're not taking your estrogen blockers. And the big thing is that, when we look at total testosterone, we also are looking at your free testosterone, and then also what is in the middle there, your sex hormone binding globulin, which can cause things to not absorb properly. So there's a lot that we look at in conjunction with just total testosterone. It's not just total testosterone. To me, is not as important as free testosterone. That's my opinion. And that's our doctor's opinion, most of them. And being estrogen dominant, Charlie, why don't you talk about the causes of being estrogen dominant? You can be estrogen dominant without being on testosterone too.
Yeah, well, estrogen, it's estradiol in men. That's the male version. You don't want to be very high without being on your blockers, because that's when you'll have your side effects. The gynecomastia is the number one, moodiness, water retention. But it's really, really important that you don't go too low either, because your joints, you need estrogen to keep your joints lubricated. So your joints start to dry out, you get sore shoulders, elbows, knees. And probably the worst of all is, guys will start testosterone and the estrogen blockers might work a little too good, and they'll feel their erection quality go down fast, and they're just mind blown. And it's a very easy fix, very easy fix. Um, but I think that makes me think a little bit about the new therapy that we've been using in clomiphene, um, because now that HCG is not readily available and has gotten so much more expensive, we phased in a lot of our patients up in New England on to enclomiphene, which is really, I don't know the ins and outs of it like our medical staff knows, but it works in conjunction with the anastrozole really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand, the enclomiphene um, blocks the estrogen receptor,
Yeah, you're not going to have
and
a lot more. Well, there's a lot less, 90% less issues with gyno since we've been incorporating enclomiphene.
yeah, yeah. So from what I understand, it blocks the estrogen receptor, which then tells our pituitary gland we need to make estrogen. Now, our body doesn't make estrogen. Our body, a male's body, converts testosterone into estrogen. So the pituitary says, I need estrogen in this guy. I need to get some estrogen out there. How am I going to do this? I know. I'm going to send a signal down to the testes to make more testosterone. So then it will turn into estrogen.
Yeah.
So then the estrogen gets into the body, but it can never lock into the estrogen receptors because the clomiphene has bound up that receptor. So the estrogen that is in the blood that's not getting bound into receptors is absolutely harmless. It's absolutely harmless. It's the estrogen that is locking into the estrogen receptors
Receptors.
that
Yeah.
are causing the problem. It's the same exact thing as what total testosterone is to free testosterone. Total estrogen is to free estrogen. So the enclomiphene is really it's really a great therapy. I've never been a big fan of clomiphene citrate. I've never liked it because it
Well,
has
if you
that.
had gyno, you would have been.
Yeah, but to put a man on clomiphene, and some guys have no side effects. When I tried to take clomiphene years ago, I felt horrible. It has something in it called zuclomiphene, Zu-clomiphene. I believe it has zuclomiphene and N-clomiphene. And so what the zuclomiphene does is it gives you a lot of the bad side effects. So what's been great is they've been able to isolate the N-clomiphene out of clomiphene citrate, and that's what we're using now. The N-clomiphene is the stuff in clomiphene that you really want. So again,
So,
I'm I'm talking like a doctor here because I'm trying to remember what the medical staff has told me about these things. But the enclomiphene has been a nice addition to our protocol.
yeah, I mean, we've surely incorporated quite a few different meds over the past years, and and the biggest thing, is to just not get complacent with any of it, right? So like, we send our PAs and doctors to these forums and continuing education, and now that we're licensed in all these states, they're doing all these CEs, and it's been wild. So Charlie, give me your top, before we wrap up, your top three highlights, both in core. I know you're successful with partners with the Wahlbergs and the Wahlburgers. I know that you're a great day trader as well. If you want to talk about those couple things, and then maybe some of your your top pivot, your top accomplishments in the last 10 years in core and in conjunction with core.
Yeah. Well, yeah. A lot of people in New England know I'm a part owner of the Wahlburgers restaurants. Um, I also, with Mark's older brother Jimmy, I own a film production studio called Wall Street Productions. So we do a lot of faith-based movies. We do a lot of stuff in the addiction space. We're just wrapping up a documentary right now in the addiction space. So I'm very, very proud of my affiliation with the family and with the work I've been able to do. Um, in trading, heck, I started trading when I was 16 years old in high school. So if I just love to watch the market. I love to stay on top of current events. I think in this day and age, if you're the type of person who's burying your head in the sand and not following along with what's happening in the world,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing yourself and your family a big disservice. And this is not to make any political statements, but you need to pay attention to what's going on in our world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, in regards to what I'm the most proud of with core, boy, that's a really difficult question, Sid. Um, you know,
The
I'm
fact we're still open.
the fact that anybody's still listening to what we have to
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
Well, I would say, and I think you might agree with me. I mean, you can say all the military stuff that you've spearheaded has been fantastic, but just knowing how many people that we as a business have helped
Uh-huh.
either save their marriage, make them better fathers, make them better at their sales job, their regular job, um, caught cancers that their doctor would have never found. I mean, so I'll give you this by way of analogy. I know you want to touch on that. As an attorney, I felt like all I was doing was tearing things down. People would never come to me because things were going good, and I could never really fix things. They either got arrested, they're getting sued, their wife cheated on them, their husband. It was just horrible. It was horrible, very stressful, and very. It's a tough job, you
Yeah.
know. And I knew when my mom stopped telling everybody that her only son was an attorney, I knew that was my chance to get out of the law profession and into something else. But here at Core, it's like I've done a 180 flip. I have now, instead of tearing things apart and fighting, I've been able to help people. And
Piece things together.
yeah, so I think honestly, helping people, seeing guys super happy, and oh gosh, I just left my physical with Brianna. She is amazing. I can't even tell you how many times I hear that, and I'm not just saying
Every
that.
day.
Not just saying that because I work with Brianna. You know, you see Betsy all the time. I see Brianna. You know, they're fantastic. They're really good. You know, a lot of people don't look forward to going to their doctor. With us, a lot of people look forward to seeing the medical staff.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
especially
but
when they're in the
but
clinics
but
there. Sorry, go on.
but yeah, but I know you want to touch upon finding problems in the bloods, because that's been one of those things I never expected to see, and I've seen it.
It really takes away your faith in basic health care. You know,
Yeah,
for me to have so my mother 2 years ago was on her deathbed, and it was during just from the beginning of COVID, and I looked at her medical charts from like 4 years prior. They had them at the doctor's office, and she had like no blood work in there. It was like one page of blood work, and I'm like, this is insane. This woman's like 60 years old. Like, how the hell do you not look at like real? I'm used to seeing like real intense blood, and if something's comes, I tell everyone this all the time. If something's wrong with you, our blood work's not going to tell us exactly what it is, but it's going to let us know something's wrong with you, right? And we're going to tell you, we're going to help you. And the fact that we've probably found prostate cancer in over 40 people under the age of 40 years old is fucking ridiculous to me, right?
yeah.
The fact that
And
we found,
this is finding the prostate cancer when they first come in for the appointment,
yes, exactly correct. Not
because
before, yeah, no,
there's never been anybody who's been with our clinic who's got prostate cancer from testosterone. That's a whole
another
nother.
bullshit story there.
It sure is.
So, one thing that we do look at is based on your age and based on your PSA number, we have a good idea of what's going on. And if you do come in, you get your blood work done, and you're 30 years old and your prostate's slightly elevated, it's time to go get your prostate checked. It just because you're not 45 doesn't mean that you can't take the precautions. And we push that precaution. And like the fact that we've caught brain tumors, like we're an HRT clinic catching brain tumors. The fact that the patient was at their general practitioner 2 weeks before and did blood work, and then we found the brain tumors is freaking insane to me.
Yeah,
Like,
well, they don't test things like prolactin, and you know, if a prolactin is super elevated, Dr. K just found a pituitary tumor in one of my high school classmates. He went right to Dr. K's office for his physical in Webster, Massachusetts. Went right to see the doc, tested prolactin. He had a pituitary now, so now he's getting it taken care of. This is my high school friend that I played football with in school. So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm very proud of helping patients, but I would say, and I think you're going to agree with me, I'm equally as proud as helping people live,
yeah.
and catching those cancers.
I had a patient when I was in San Diego. I was talking to, and he was a police officer, an older guy, and I said, "Hey, man, I think you should really come in and come check us out." And he's like, "Oh man, I don't want to take testosterone. I'm not interested in getting cancer and this, that, and the other." And the stigma's still there in some demographics and some age groups. It's harder than others depending on your your circle of friends. All it takes is one friend in your circle to show that change, and then the rest of them follow, right? You know what I mean? So I said to him, I said, well, if not for the if not for the testosterone, come in for the blood work, dude. Like, come in and see what is going on with you. Because I mean, show me the last time the Bureau had you go in for a physical exam, and obviously it's nothing, right? And the reality of it is that, like, I urge people out there, whether they want to go on testosterone or not, to take advantage of a very inexpensive, very high level blood work and a free telehealth visit. Basically what it comes down to, it's all incorporated in one cost. And we're here. Like, we don't care if you don't buy testosterone from us. Take advantage of the blood work.
Yeah, I agree. I tell that to men all the time, that, that I might have an inclination that they're not going to be a good fit for us, but they said they don't have a primary care doctor. They haven't done bloods. I said, well, come on in, do some bloods, meet the medical staff, get some recommendations. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to go on any therapy, but at least you'll have a nice set of bloods that you'll be able to use as a baseline. So as the years go on in your life, you'll be able to look back and see how your levels might have changed from when you were, say, 30 or 35 to 45 to 55.
The one other thing too that really gets me is, like, 9.7 out of 10 times people get their blood work done and it's fine, right? The guy that really gets me, the girl that gets me, is, I haven't had blood work done in 10 years. All right, so what are you going to do? Wait another 10? Like, here, I'll pay for it for you. Come with me. You know what I mean? Like, that's the hard stuff too. Like, what's going on where, like, you have a wife, you have a kid, you have a business, you're an employer or employee, you have friends. What, like, with everything going on in the world right now, with the changes in our supplementation, with our changes in, stress levels, all that stuff, why wouldn't you get your blood work done? Like, that's the craziest thing to me. And, like, we urge that so much, like, just get your blood work done. And, Charlie's been big on that. We're only required, if you come through the office, right, and you have something going on with you, we require blood work sometimes every 3 months, sometimes every 6 months, but mandatory every 8 months. Mandatory. You have to get it done or you cannot get your next order. That's not the law. We just minus 4 months off what the law is to make sure that people are staying, number one, compliant, and number two, on top of their health. And they appreciate that. I mean, we don't have 10,000 people doing it because they don't appreciate it. So
yeah, I'm always pleased when I have a patient that says, geez, I'd like to do my bloods like every 3 months. Is that going to be a problem, Charlie? I said, no, I wish everybody was like you.
Me too.
I wish everybody was like you. You make it so much easier on the medical staff, and then we can tweak and see if everything's, if the estradiol is where it needs to be, or if your testosterone needs to be dropped just a little bit, or perhaps you need to do your shot bi-weekly instead of every 7 days.
Especially after that first 10 weeks. Like, it's a big thing. But, well, Charlie, I got to tell you, buddy, you're inspiration to pretty much the whole core team, man. Devin has been amazing over the years. You guys have really, really done great things. I know there's a lot of patients that love you. And I appreciate everything. And hope for many more, buddy. So thank you so much.
The feeling is mutual, Sid, for all you've done for all your staff and your employees, and your generosity in the communities that Core Medical is at. It's been great. So I love you. You know that. And I'm very proud of everything you've done as well.
Thanks, brother. We'll be in touch soon. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Thanks for your loyalty.
Thanks, Sid.